Welcome to We Don't Color on the Dog. We got with the Supervisor of Elections, Robert Bender. Robert, thank you for joining us.
Oh, happy to be here, Rick. Thank you so much.
Yesterday you had a workshop for new candidates. What were some of the things that you covered?
So it's a process to get involved in it as a candidate. So we just want to make sure they understand that process. Let them know that the Supervisor of Elections office, although we're not legal representatives and give them legal advice, we are here to help them. So just understanding that process from the first forms that need to be filed before they go open a bank account, before they start collecting contributions, before they start getting those petitions. If they're going to qualify by petition, they need to get a DSDE 9 form, which is the appointment of treasurer form, to us and let them know what bank it is. Some of the pitfalls that we've seen with that, especially when candidates wait till the last minute to start this process, is that one, their bank may not be available or willing to take a candidate. So you want to prime that bank to make sure they're there. The other thing is that they may not offer starter checks. So if you're trying to do a quick turnaround during the week of qualifying, opening a bank account, getting some checks, because you have to pay that qualifying fee with a check drawn on that account. If not having a check might be a problem. So just some of the things like that, it's best to go ahead and plan ahead and not wait to the last minute to do some of these things.
Well, I think it's important to understand for our viewers is that this is a process. The first thing is to pre-qualify, and that's what you're talking about. Getting, filling out the paperwork, assigning a treasurer, setting up a bank account for the campaign that has checks. So,
Right.
because the actual qualifying period doesn't happen until June, and that's different. That's when you've either, like you said, and I know you put it in your press release, how many petitions they need to have signed to qualify. It's different for different offices, or they can just pay the fee. And that's where they have to have that check on their checking account. They can't use a cashier's check. They
Right.
can't pay in cash. They can't use a credit card. It's got to be in a check.
Right. And a lot of things that go into that is that really you're testing out the waters, right? Do I want my name? That qualifying is when you actually get your name put on the ballot. And this pre-file area is when you're testing the waters. You're seeing if your candidacy has a chance, how you might do. I know that when I first ran for county commissioner, we had six. We actually had seven. Chris Phillips was initially running as county commissioner, and then once so many got in the field, he pivoted towards City Council District 4 and ran there. And so again, you have that ability to make that switch. But once qualifying comes and goes, and you've submitted all the paperwork to actually be on the ballot, that's final. Again, you're testing the waters. It allows you to go out and fundraise. Maybe you
Right.
can't fundraise very well. Maybe other people get in later, and you feel you want to support them. So it's a no harm look, I'd say. But there's also a lot of rules and structures that go along with being a candidate, including the filing deadlines that you have to file the financial disclosures. Sorry, not the financial disclosures, but the financial reports. The financial disclosures are part of the qualifying paperwork that you have to go into. The Form 6 is more invasive than the Form 1. You have to list all your assets. You have to list the addresses of your liabilities, the amounts, especially when it comes to brokerage accounts. You can't just say I have 200,000 in my brokerage account. You have to break it. I mean, this is a financial disclosure. The state, the public record is we want to know what's in that $200,000 so that you're not making decisions that may benefit you financially. And so that's part of that process that we do. You have the oath that you sign that you've either been with the party for a year, and things like that. You don't have any fines outstanding. Of course, we've seen last year we had a couple people that ran on their nicknames. Bubba Peters. We all know Bubba
Mm-hmm.
as that, and so he has to attest that that's what he goes by and that's what he's known as. Otherwise, you do get people that want to run as any other candidate or
Right.
Mickey Mouse or something like that, and so to have that ability to use a nickname is something we look at as well.
Well, and then also understanding, some people, even though they may not qualify, they may start buying signs and doing flyers, and there's certain qualifications for that as far as how you have to identify your party and the office, and all that needs to happen. Who's paying, so that people know who's paying for that. The other piece is that different offices have different requirements for residency. The city has a city charter that is different than running for county commission. That Yeah, and this is one that catches a lot of people, Robert, is that people file for city council and they don't realize that they have to have lived in that district and be registered as a voter in that district for a year before the qualifying. So,
Correct.
and people have gotten caught. Robert, I think I probably have seen at least a handful of people get caught with that in city council races, that they get all the way up to the qualifying and realize, wait, I moved into this neighborhood a year ago, but I didn't change my voter registration, and it's caught a lot of candidates over the years.
It has. So those are all things that we got into. One are those disclaimers that you have to put on signs, advertising, palm cards. Making sure that if you're not the incumbent, you have the word "for" between your name and the office that you're running for, so it doesn't give off that you're the incumbent. All those sorts of things. And again, it's very strict in the formatting and the wording with those disclaimers. So not to say that it's again, if you don't follow it to a T, that's okay. It's more and less how you respond. So I showed a picture of someone whose sign wasn't legal, if you want to say, and they went through and they put just a little sticker on each
Right.
one of them,
Yeah.
and now they're compliant. So and things like that. And I think the other thing is that, just like you said with residency requirement, that is not the job of my office to validate that. We're ministerial in our duties. It's the four corners of the form. Is the form complete? We do that. If somebody wants to raise a residency requirement or something like that, then they would either have to go to the city and go that route, or go to the elections commission.
Yeah, I think the city's qualifying is city clerk is
City
what
clerk.
makes
Yep.
that call
Yeah.
on the city council stuff, and then the state does the other, right?
Right.
Yeah. So it's I admire anyone who runs. I've run, and I know you have. Anyone who puts their name out there, it is the cruelest poll in the world, because there's no guessing at the end
There's
of the day. You either won or you lost.
right.
It's like how so many candidates are lions up until until that night when they finally realize that maybe only 11 people liked you.
Well, the stories around the office are that there was a candidate that said there was no way he got that many votes because he talked to all of his family members and they said they all voted for him. And you have to. Well, I think someone in your family's not quite telling the truth then. And even there was one where I think in Century, the candidate didn't receive any votes. And Stafford had the ballots police escorted down to make sure they could go through. And sure enough, there were no votes in that batch for that candidate. Apparently, he had not been able to make it to the polls that day. And so, yes, it is humbling. I was talking with someone, and it was for me, when you hear people say, like, I talk to my family, I pray. I know that's something that I did when I first made the decision. And when I finally made the final decision to run, a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, and I felt at ease with the decision. And so I'm not going to say it's as hard as that decision Lane Kiffin made earlier in the week. I don't know if it was much as
Different,
hard to go
different.
there, Rick, but,
Oh, God.
he said the same thing, but, it is, because it's a lot on your family. I even read something where the Obamas were talking about how it impacted their marriage when he was starting off as a senator and running for that. And, so it is, at least I felt, to be able to do the things I want to do in representing the people, it does require a lot of time away in the evenings to attend events and things like that. I really am thankful for the effort that my wife takes on in being the spouse of an elected official, because it does take a lot, because you're there to serve the people, and you have to be there.
It is the great thing about the supervisor of elections office, the way it has always been, particularly here in Escambia County, because I've lived here almost 50 years now, and it has always been one of the most helpful places for every candidate, no matter what party or if they're any party. It is a great resource that people can lean on to get information. And I felt like y'all have always bent over backwards to try to help every candidate and without judgment on them. And it creates, I think, a lot of trust in the office and in elections here in Escambia County.
Well, and what I tell people is, if you come and meet with me, that stays between us. The office isn't going to be the start of any rumors, because, of course, we had a number of people that came to us last year that were thinking of running that ended up not running. So all of a sudden, if somehow that's getting out from my office, then one, it's not giving the candidates feel like they can go someplace to get the information they need to make an informed decision, right? I mean, what you want is for them to say, okay, I understand what this is going to involve, and I've been given all the information. And then once you come in with your paperwork, well, then we'll send out that press release from the office saying that you've pre-filed or that you've qualified or something like that. But until then, again, we had a number of people with going after the congressman's seat earlier this year that needed to understand how the resign to run law worked and all that kind of stuff. And so they need to be able to have those conversations without worry that their name's going to get out or, again, it just. And I appreciate that because that's exactly what we want this office to be and there is no room for politics in here, right? I mean, and honestly, that's what I love about the position is that I'm going to treat a Republican the same as a Democrat. And even when I talk to the parties, if I send it to one party, I'm copying the email to the other party so that they're getting the information at the same time and treat everybody the same. Because ultimately, it's to the voters to decide who's elected,
Right.
and not this office. And so, my job is to represent the citizens of Escambia County, make sure that this office runs the way it's supposed to, that we follow the laws that we're supposed to, and then that the legal votes get counted.
Robert, thank you so much. We'll be an interesting year. We'll see how it unfolds.
Looking forward to it. Thanks so much, Rick.
Just a friend. I asked her about that day.